Welcome to CPG Vibes. No scripts,
just chat.
I'm Alex Baer.
And I'm Wade Yenny.
Each episode is recorded live, and we talk all things food and beverage, and so much more.
Feel our vibe and search for CPG Vibes on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and make sure to give us a 5-star review.
If you'd like to sponsor our show with your product or service, email us at cpgvibes100@gmail.com.
Now, let's vibe.
All right, welcome to episode 145. We're getting up there, Wade. We're getting up there of CPG Vibes. Hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving break, and we took last week off. And here we are 2 weeks later. Wade, I feel a little California vibe when looking at your screen. So why is that? Tell us more.
I am in Marina Del Rey. I'm probably as close as I'm going to get to you, Alex, until maybe Expo. But yeah, I'm coming to you from the palatial penthouse suite of the Marina Del Rey Marriott. I'm here for Nosh Live. V-Driven is a gold sponsor, and just saw the first half of the Pitch Slam. And after we finish the show, grab some lunch, see the second half of the Pitch Slam, wrap things up, head down to San Diego to reconnect with my wife and daughter, and fly back home on Sunday.
Right on. Very, very cool. It looks like very palatial, very nice in the background.
This is the place. I'm not kidding when I say it's the suite. It's Luke's room, but he was gracious enough to let me borrow it. He's one of the judges on the panel for the Pitch Slam, so he didn't need his room, and here I am.
Awesome stuff. Well, good to have you. On the side of the country on the West Coast, and who knows? Maybe I'll crash it later. You never know.
You never know. It's funny. I've been here. I flew in on Tuesday, and I'm still getting up at 4:00 every morning, which is pretty much when I wake up in North Carolina. But it's just the time. It hasn't registered. But it's good to be back. The weather is beautiful. Well, although it's a little overcast today, or has
a lot
been,
of overcast. Yeah,
clearing up a little bit now, but it's 65 degrees. When I left North Carolina Tuesday morning, it was 25 degrees and a slight dusting of snow. So
got it. It's actually pretty interesting because you just got in, I think, a couple days ago, 2 days ago.
Tuesday.
You got in Tuesday. Yep. So you've been here for a few days.
Yep.
And this morning, not to get off topic here because we have a big show. It's our Expert Series, Volume 6. We have Max Dichter from Fourth and Heart. We have Jeff Church, the previous CEO of Suja, and he also has his accelerator program he'll be talking about. And then we have also John Foraker, who needs no introduction, Once Upon a Farm CEO. But today, for anyone in Southern California, especially in South Bay, Venice, Marina Del Rey, that kind of area, west side of Los Angeles, super overcast, incredible overcast, where this morning at 6 a.m., 6:30, could not see 20 feet in front of me. And all the cars were going 20 miles an hour. I passed through an intersection, okay, and there's no lanes in the intersection, and I crossed over into the wrong lane and I cut someone off. So This time I was the asshole. Usually someone else is the asshole to me. Today I was the asshole. So anyway,
I know we've got to run real fast, but I got to say two things before we do. Because I'm drinking our Whole Harmony. I think I've talked about these before.
Oh yeah, a client of V-Driven.
They are officially in Erewhon now, number 3 in the category.
Congratulations.
Number 3 in the category. So Alex, if you haven't tried it, make sure you get over to Erewhon. It's absolutely delicious product. Awesome. I won't go into it. I'll put the link in the chat. Number 2. On our way back from dinner last night, we actually rode in one of those Waymo driverless cars. That was an experience in and of itself. That was awesome. I mean, I've been seeing these things all over the place. Jaguars. We'll talk about it another show. We got.
Did it mess up at all? Did it mess up at all?
It was amazing. Perfect. Although it was just kind of, and I have a Tesla, and I don't have currently, but I've had the trial of full self-driving.
Right.
But it's a completely different experience when you're sitting in the back seat and there's no one empty, no one in the front seat, and it's just crazy. But we'll talk about it later. We got important people here. We do. Yeah, I'd love to talk about cars this whole episode, but we're not. So first, some laundry list items. We're the number 1 rated CPG podcast in the world. Keep us that way. Go to Apple Podcasts. Find our beautiful faces for radio. Scroll down to the bottom. Give us 5 stars. If you have not done that, make sure to do that.
we're also going to be announcing the winners of the Range Me, not on this episode, but the next episode. I forgot to ask them this week, but it's been so busy. Next week, we will announce the winner of the Range Me premium subscription. Everyone applied through our show, and there was one lucky winner, and we're going to announce that next week. It's worth $1,000, so that's going to be big. Also, our ongoing sponsors. So we have Range Me, that is one of them, and then we also have our weekly sponsor for this episode, and that is Powerful Energy. And he is also featuring on the Spotlight Melting Forest, the functional beverage with mushrooms, as you can see in the background. And a little bit about Range Me. You can go to their landing page, rangeme.com/CPG-vibes, fill out the form, and you'll have someone contacting you and going over their features and their programs. But a little bit about them. So Range Me is the smartest way to get your brand in front of thousands of retailers, experience always brand exposure, exclusive buy or discovery opportunities, and access to proprietary insights, research, and resources. Over 15,000 buyers. I'm sure the people that we're bringing on our show here, they probably hit up maybe half of those, 7,500. That's how many stores these people are in. But Range Me covers retailers like Target, Albertsons, Whole Foods, Sprouts, Publix, Kroger, Costco, Wegmans, H-E-B, Food Line, Giant Foods, Fresh Market, and many, many, many more. But that's not all. We have ECRM category sessions with Range Me, and that is live sessions where you can present to buyers in person. So super, super important. I actually would like to hear from Fourth and Hard, from Jeff, just from the Suja days and Once Upon a Farm, to see if they're actively using Range Me. I'm sure they are, but they can answer that for themselves. And what else? We have our back wall sponsors. Thank you. Feel Free, right? Botanic Tonics. I'm wearing their hoodie. I need to get like a hoodie of Fourth and Heart or Once Upon a Farm or something. I got to get something out of the show from these guests. So maybe I'll hit them up for that. And they'll be sending it over to me, I'm sure, shortly. We'll see. I'll be having plenty of pouches of smoothies and ghee once I get my hoodies. All right. So with all that said, I think we're good. And we have our YouTube channel. Can't forget that. YouTube channel, youtube.com. You are chugging the shit out of that, Wade. youtube.com/@CPG Vibes. And we have a lot of comments here. Don't have time to go over all of them, Wade, but let me just shout out a couple, and then we're going to roll into bringing our guests on. We have Richard Moniz. Haven't seen him for a few episodes. Good to see you, Richard. We have Robert Kogan, who is, again, the sponsor for Powerful Energy Distribution. They distribute they bring brands into Canada. They help you with the labeling. They help you with the regulations. They help you with the distribution, and they push you into retailers and stores all over Canada. He's the master of Canada. So make sure to talk with him if you have a brand you're looking to break across the border and get up north into Canada. And also Melting Forest is his featured brand. Who else? Hank Watt, good being here. Missed you all. Hugh Curtis, West Coast Wade. There we go. WCW. That's hilarious. This ties right into Wade's love for wrestling.
Absolutely.
What a week. Hello, everyone. Gavin Conkle. Hello. Let me just turn that off here. Of course, I get phone calls that come right in, and it pipes right into my Mac. That's it. Okay. Shall we?
Jeff, we missed Jeff Litkovsky.
Where's he? Oh, there he is.
He's there.
Greetings, Earthlings. Yes. Last time I checked, I think we're still Earthlings. At some point, we'll be on Mars, according to Elon Musk, according to him. All right. So I guess without any other hesitations or delays, we are going to bring on our guests here. So we have Max Dichter, Fourth and Heart. He is the CEO. We have Jeff Church, who was the previous CEO of Suja Life, they call it now, and who got acquired actually in 2021. And he is now running an accelerator for emerging natural CPG brands that are looking to grow and learn on how to grow their business. And John Foraker, the CEO of Once Upon a Farm. How's everyone doing?
Great. Doing well. Thank you.
Cool. All right. So we have a couple return guests here, right? John was on our Master Series, and then Jeff was on also our Master Series. And then Max, you're a first-time guest. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Honored to be here with some legends, honestly.
Cool. And you're one of them too, man. That's why you're on the show. So
appreciate it.
So
is that the next, Alex, is that the next thing? We have the Expert Series, Master Series, Legend Series. I mean, how mmany more adjectives, descriptors can we give these guys?
Yeah, we just got to continue inflating their ego as much as possible, right?
I don't think it's masters. I think it's old.
Yeah, exactly.
I buy that if it wasn't for Max. Max kind of ruins that.
Yeah, true.
Bring down the average here, so it's good for all of us.
Yeah,
exactly.
Makes us feel good.
All right. Yeah, there we go. That's what we're here. That's what we're here to do. Make people feel good. So we're just going to go into literally just an introduction, right? It's a tradition on this show, and also I did remember, Jeff, what you said, and John, I cannot remember what you shared the last time, but our tradition is you obviously introduce yourself, who you're with, your past history in CPG, but also one thing about you that we do not know, even ever said publicly about yourself. So I'm going to start it upper right corner there with John, and then we'll go clockwise to Jeff and then to Max. But John, you have the floor.
Hey, John here from Once Upon a Farm. Last time I was on, I let everyone know that I was a blackjack dealer.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
A new thing that no one knows about me yet is that next year, it looks very likely like I'm going to be a grandparent for the first time.
Hey,
congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I thanked Cassandra this morning for creating the company that's going to feed that kid. So.
Isn't that amazing? And they never have to buy baby food ever.
I know. I'm going to talk to Ari this afternoon. I'm going to thank him too. So.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, welcome back to our show, John. Excited to have you on. And thanks for those that don't know, I mean, I'll say it publicly that we had one guest that got a scheduling mix up and he wasn't able to make the show. And at 11, was it a Wednesday night? I think it was Wednesday night, 11:30 at night when I was notified. And I just thought of, I'm like, who could I bring on? Well, John, he's amazing. I messaged you on LinkedIn because I didn't want to text you at 11 o'clock at night, and he responded within 2 minutes. You're like, I'm game. I'm good. I'll be at Nosh, but I'm good. I'm good for it. I'm like, holy crap, that's quick.
That's what you call going to the bullpen, Alex. We went to the bullpen and bring in John.
He was right there. He's right there. So thank you again, John, for the short notice coming here. All right, Jeff, welcome back to our show. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Alex. Thank you. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed being on the show the first time, and I'm happy to be here again.
Cool. One thing about you.
One thing about me. So this is actually one thing that not many people know. When I was in high school going into college, you take the entry placement test. I went to Michigan State, and I placed into remedial math and remedial English. And I was so upset about it on my way home in the car in my Vista Cruiser in 1979 that I tore it up and I threw it out the window. And but it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me because I've been in sports. I just didn't study in high school. And when I did this remedial math for no credit and my fall semester, I actually learned math and I learned English for the very first time. And I, loved both of them, but I just hadn't focused on it. I wasn't ready really to learn, but I was really, discouraged. So if anybody ever feels like they're not smart enough to do this, you're smart enough to do this.
There you go. Wow. Did not know that about you. And now we all know. That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. Anyone can become successful, right? No matter where you come from. That's what I love about being an entrepreneur. All right. So Max, the last but definitely not least. Last and Guy. All right. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm the CEO of Fourth and Heart, as you guys know. I've been here for about 6.5 years. And a couple fun facts. The first one, I'm about 25 floors below Wade down here in the basement. So apologies for any Wi-Fi interruption here. More fun fact, something that most people don't know about me is that I recreationally race cars on the side, just for weekend fun. If Fourth and Heart wasn't enough of a thriller, I get to go on the racetrack and take my car out there and push it past 140 around California racetracks up here. So
legal, not street racing.
Legal racing on a track. Yes, nice. Correct.
Wow. Which track do you go to?
Button Willow mostly, and Big Willow, Willow Springs. So a few
Okay,
hours
gotcha.
north of LA.
Okay, interesting. So I just want to do a NOS check. So Wade is at NOS. Max, you're at NOS, 25 floors below Wade.
Maybe 30, maybe 30. He's
maybe
underestimating the penthouse up here, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but from looking at your suite, you got to be way the hell up there, Wade. And then John, you're there too, right?
I was there yesterday.
Okay.
Jen and I spoke yesterday, and I'm back in Berkeley today.
Oh, you're back in Berkeley. Okay, cool. I got to share with the whole blackjack theme. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I used to play poker. I got into poker in 2006. The year that you remember that, I don't know if you remember, followed WSOP World Series of Poker. But I remember Jamie Gold. He was like the total amateur, went into the World Series of Poker in the main event, bought in for $10,000. Johnny Chan, one of the best poker players of all time, trained him. And Jamie Gold won the entire thing for like $12 million. So I got into it in 2006. And then I went to the World Series of Poker in 2008, and I played a satellite where you put in $1,000. And if you win 10,000, and then you buy into the main event. And so I bought in for 1,000. I won the satellite, bought in for 10,000, went into the main event, and then within 2 hours I was out. So that's something that a lot of people don't know about me. All right, did never play blackjack though, and if I did, I only play at John's table. All right, so let's roll right into it. And there's no script, just chat. I mean, Wade and I might have some weird looks on our face because we normally prepare questions, but we have not prepared a lot of questions for this. We want to be more of an organic kind of free flowing. So I think I just wanted to really start it with more of like kind of the story behind the brand and what really motivated you to join the company and be part of the company. I think that's a really cool kind of inspiring story because there's the founder side, not only founder, but as a CEO, you're really committing to the long-term vision of this company. So, Jeff, I want to start with you because I think it's just such a cool story. Like, what did you see in Suja? How did you discover it early on? And then how did it come to be? And then when did you, like, at what stage did you really start working with Suja and joining them full time?
Well, I mean, I started it, so I was there at the very, very beginning. But I met a young kid named Eric Ethans, a young kid at the time, and he was making these juices. I'm from the Midwest, so green juice to me was kind of difficult for me to to consume, especially when it has kale in it. But he was selling it for $12 a bottle, and I was intrigued more than anything about how can somebody sell a bottle of juice for $12. And he's, my other partner in it, James Brennan, said, "You got to try this, Jeff. You just got to try this." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll finally try it." And I tried it, and it was green juice, and it tasted really good. And I'm like, if I can drink this, anybody can drink this green juice. And truth be told, it was apple was the first ingredient in the green juice of that one. But I was intrigued by it, and it was just the three of us started to really kind of create it. I thought it was just going to be a side project of mine, a little consulting. But as we got into it, I was loving it. And, we created a pretty cool product line, got in front of Whole Foods. And, I'd been in front of Whole Foods with a bottled water brand a few years earlier. And it was like begging and, doing everything I could to get in front of them for a 5-minute meeting. Whereas when I put this cold pressed juice in front of them, they were like, "Wow, this is amazing. Come in, we'll help you with the formulas, we'll help you with the flavors, and we'll help you with a lot of stuff." And I'm like, "Wow, really?" And so we kind of put these formulas together and, got it going at Southern California at Whole Foods. And, very first week it was doing really well. And the buyer called me and he said, "Jeff, product's doing really well, but when I take my finger and my thumb and I rub it up your bottle, all the letters come off." I'm like, "Oh no." And it turned out I didn't have a varnish that I was putting on the label, and it was going through an HPP process, which was water in water. And it was that they're all coming off. And I was so scared about that. But they were really cool, and they were really nice people about it. We got it corrected pretty quick. But we went from sales wise, 600,000 the first year to 18 million to 44 million to 66 million, in the first 3 or 4 years, and hit 100 million in 5.5 years, having to make all of our own manufacturing, which, we raised in the 10 years before we sold it, we raised about $110 million into the business, and about 60 of it went into the manufacturing plants. And we were growing so fast that we just had to basically throw money at the wall, to kind of, to do it right and to make sure we're, doing good quality. I mean, the best thing is you're in Whole Foods. That's the worst thing, you're in Whole Foods, because you screw that up, it's going to be a hard deal to kind of recover from. And but we did it, and everybody worked, like most of the founders that are on this are working 24/7 to make it happen. And those are the stories and memories that are just the best. And I was super naive about CPG at the time, and just thought, because I was telling my head of sales, Nikki, who works at General Mills before that hey, this is going to be great in a couple of years, because we're on the shelf. And she said, "You're nuts, Jeff. You don't understand. In a couple of years, we're going to be fighting to stay on the shelf, and it's going to be a real battle." I'm like, really? And I just thought that once you're on the shelf, you're on the shelf. And I didn't understand the difference in distribution and velocity. And, I was celebrating our growth, but our growth was really distribution, gains versus velocity gains. And so I had a bit of a reckoning, there. But, we went through 11 fundraising rounds in 9 years. So I've been fundraising the whole time, for it. As an entrepreneur, that's pretty much what you do. But, just we sold half the company to Coke in 2015, and then they decided to they were going to buy the other half in 2018, and told us that they'd come in to visit our plant and tell us about what it was going to be like to be in the Coke organization. And then 3 weeks later, they basically declined us or DC'd us, and so I had a lot of debt, and we had a lot of. I mean, they were cool about it, but what I didn't know, and they didn't tell me at the time, is they were getting out of anything natural. And that was, we were the first casualty, of that. But we had, $30-40 million in debt. It was due in 3 months, and so we had to, and they were good about that too. But we had to restructure all that, and basically we pivoted. We introduced a lot of new products. We averaged introducing a new product every 9 days over 10 years, and we DC'd one about every 15 days, but that the gap got to be a real big inventory, number. And I learned so many lessons. I made so many mistakes. There was we actually had on our website at one time, a tab that had all of our, like a graveyard of our products.
Graveyard.
DC'd, but it was a great experience, kind of just a wonderful experience in my life.
Yeah, I got to say and thank you for sharing that. And that's where I got my wires crossed in the story, that you discovered that they were making this cold pressed juice, and then you came in so early, got the company name, worked it out with them, and then brought it to market. So my mistake on that. I do have to say though that the Vanilla Cloud was my all-time favorite. I remember that one, like I got it. It looked so cool. So it was like an almond milk base that had cinnamon, I think vanilla in it. You're even going, wow, that was good. And I love that
so
one.
good.
It was so freaking good. But I remember that there was issues at the pH level, not to get too technical. Eventually HPP said, hey, any HP manufacturer said it has to be a certain acidic level, and Vanilla Cloud was above that, so you couldn't HPP it, which is what we went through at Genius Juice. We couldn't HPP our product, high pressure pasteurization. So such a great story, man. And then Suja has still grown considerably, especially in Costco. That's where I see a lot of growth with that brand.
Costco, it probably still is the biggest account. I love working with Costco, because Costco gives you usually when you get in there after you've done a roadshow, or when you get in there for a rotation, it's usually 8 to 10 weeks. And, it's great from the standpoint of you get to really see if this product is going to work. The stakes are big. You got to have your numbers all dialed in and everything. But, because they only take a 13 or 14% margin, on their products, you're actually, if you do it right, you're actually able to make, money on it. And one region of Costco is the equivalent of, in a lot of categories, the equivalent of entire Target, for example. So the dollars can be just, massive, but you can also run yourself right out of business if you don't do it right.
Exactly. Too many eggs in one basket. And so going to John, and kind of the same question over to you as the co-founder and also CEO of Once Upon a Farm. Like when you first kind of, thought about it and also talked with Ari and then what was his co-founder's name as well? Yeah, Cassandra.
Yeah.
When you talked about it with them and kind of came out like, just, thought of this idea, like, what do you think about it early on and what kind of inspired you to take it to the next level and say, this is something that could be big?
Yeah. Hey, well, this panel is just perfect that Jeff's on here because having been in this space for like a billion years and made every mistake in the world, there's one thing that sometimes happens. Sometimes somebody launches a product and it completely reframes what you think of price value in a category. And Suja did that. Like Suja literally blew up that juice category. Like nobody thought you could get that kind of a premium for a juice. And I remember when it was happening, I didn't know Jeff, never met him before, but heard about that brand and I couldn't believe it. I tried it and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I learned about HPP. Another brand that did that in was Siete with their original tortillas. You just all of a sudden heard it was like in a region here or there of Costco and some natural, or I mean in Whole Foods, in some natural stores, and the velocities that people were talking about were just like in a whole nother plateau at this premium of like $9.99 a bag or whatever. That's what I love about this space is sometimes you find these things. And so when I was running Annie's for a long time, and one of the things that we did a lot of consumer research on was like baby through kid parents and what's happening. And one of the things I learned talking to parents, early parents, is that about 40 to 50% of them were making their own baby food. And that's really high in a category, like 40, 50% of people are not making their own pasta sauce, for example. Like, and you kind of dig down on that and you got into like why that was happening. And it was because they basically said in so many words that the standards in the category are not where my own standards are for my kids, and that was crazy. So I thought, why isn't anyone doing fresh baby food? And no one was. Um, Although they were actually once I started going on looking. General Mills bought Annie's in 2014, and right after that, I started looking around and said, hey, I want to invest in a fresh baby food company if there is one, or if not, I want to start one. And I looked around, and one day I got a call, and someone introduced me to Ari at Once Upon a Farm. And he said, yeah, hey, we're raising some money. Here's what we're doing. They were very small, but they basically were using this HPP technology that Jeff was pioneering the use of juices. And there's a story actually that Jeff helped Cassandra figure out how to HPP this stuff in the very beginning. So even there's a connection there.
Oh, wow.
So I saw it and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And long story short, I've told the story a bunch of times, but the opportunity to invest came up. I decided to invest. I wired a bunch of money to Ari like 2 days after I met him. And then started helping him. And then in 2017, Jen Gardner and I decided to come in and join Ari and Cassandra to try to take this thing to the next level. And it was really just, it was motivated by the opportunity to like completely create a new category that everyone, including lots of my friends, were telling me was insane and would never happen. But also just like to elevate the quality of kids' food, having been at Annie's and recognizing how challenging it is to get really great nutrition. You had this new technology, HPP. You could deliver fruits and vegetables in a way that tasted amazing to a kid and in a fresh format. It was a pretty big opportunity. So anyway, that's the very beginning, and that's why I was so excited to jump in and get after it. So
awesome. Yeah, I remember. This is a. I've never actually told you the story, but a cold storage / manufacturing facility where we used to store Genius Juice and also do the pack out for it. And it was also an HPP facility. I remember stumbling upon Once Upon a Farm for the first time. They were making it in one of the rooms. I think you probably know where this is, right? This is 8 years ago.
I know exactly where that is.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like I talked to the what is it called? The food scientist, I guess, like the woman that was there.
Yeah.
And she was running it, and like they were doing some testing, and she gave me a pouch. There was no label on it. It was like a test pouch. And I'm like, what is this? And she said, oh, it's just literally blended up apples and bananas and just fruit and kale in a pouch. I'm like, what the hell? Really? Like fresh? And then I kind of looked through the window and saw the room, and I saw the machine with like apples going in and kale going in. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this brand? And I'm like, this is amazing that it's literally fresh in the pouch, HPP'd, which preserves it without any additives or heat. And it tastes like it's freshly made in a blender. So it does emulate that making it at home type of experience, which is just incredible. So that's how I first stumbled upon Once Upon a Farm. Okay, so Max, you've been waiting very patiently in the basement over there. So, so tell us your story about are we, about Fourth and Heart, how you got to know them, what you saw in them, who you met. Just tell us kind of that story of how you came to be the CEO of them.
I got to say, by the way, I hope your temperature up there, Wade, is better than down here. It's probably about 50 degrees in the basement.
Nice and toasty. It's nice and toasty.
Yeah.
Wade's getting all the benefits and you're getting all the bad sides of it. So anyway,
it's all good. My story is a little unique. I actually came into Fourth and Heart in a different capacity. I came into Fourth and Heart to run finance, and because that's my background. I'm actually I started my career in investment banking, working for Piper Jaffray when it was Piper Jaffray. Now it's Piper Sandler. That was up in the Bay Area, San Francisco. So I was working in the food and consumer retail investment banking group. So I did a few deals in that space. Angie's Boom Chicka Pop was one of the deals I was on. I actually worked with Janica Lane. If you guys are familiar with her, she's pretty prominent in space. So that was my first introduction to food as a category. I remember working on that deal, looking at some of the spins metrics like ACV, trying to wrap my head around what that even meant. And I think it had to be explained to me a few times before I really understood what it really meant. And who knew if going forward I'd actually see that again. I thought that would never pop up in my future. But after investment banking up in SF, I moved down to Los Angeles and I worked for a tech company called TrueCar. And I was doing finance and strategy work there on the biz ops team, basically reporting into the whole C-suite. And it was there that I met our founder of Fourth and Heart's husband at the time, and he was one of my former managers. And he had mentioned to me that our founder needed some help with some finance stuff. So I was doing a little bit of work on the side, just helping out with models, some investor presentations, things like that. And eventually she needed someone to come in and run finance full time. And that's how I came to Fourth and Heart. It was a great opportunity, a step up in title and role responsibility, leading a team with several direct reports. It was a great opportunity to jump in and not to mention the company was growing at 107% year over year at the time. The category was up. Ghee as a category was up 90 some odd percent. So it was a no brainer. I was like, this is great. Of course, I'm gonna jump into this thing. So I joined. That was in 2018, and then a few years after that, we had made some organizational shifts, and I actually stepped up to run the business. So it's been about 4.5 years now being in the seat, running the business. And since then, the business has taken a complete transformation, everything from the team to the SKU set to the way we operate, everything just completely overhauled. And it's been quite a ride. But right now is such an exciting time for the company because we are on a growth trajectory, exiting the year, growing at about 25% year over year. You're growing profitably. Just had the biggest month in the history of our company in October. Not as big as Once Upon a Farm or as big as Suja was, but we're trying to get that way. So hopefully in the coming years we'll be there.
That's great. That's great stuff, Max. Alex, I wanted to ask. We can go back. Let's go back to Jeff, and we'll circle around to everybody. I think this is a great question to ask the group. It's from Gavin, who coincidentally, John has twins coming any day now, literally any day. So he's a perfect candidate for Once Upon a Farm. Twins, first-time father. So again, congratulations, Gavin. But the question is, did you ever come across a retailer you were a perfect fit for, at least in your mind, right? But the retailer rejected with feedback you hadn't received before? And I think that's very interesting, that piece. How did you handle it? Did you hold a grudge? And or was it motivating to prove them wrong? And Jeff, we'll start with you.
Yes, yes, I've been rejected by lots of retailers.
But one
and
you thought was a perfect fit, right? You just in your head, it was like, this is the perfect store retailer for this brand.
Well, it's more, it's not so much rejected, but like I always, think about like Target or Sprouts and, Whole Foods and, kind of earlier retailers. And, I thought one of my brands was like perfectly, suited for Target and, and Sprouts and Whole Foods. But lesser, I wasn't expecting as much from Sprouts. And Sprouts ended up being the hero in it, for this brand. And Target, whereas I thought would be the real fit, wasn't the real fit. And I love Target and I love what they do, and it's a great retailer. But it just wasn't. It just didn't sync, with that retailer. And I think it was because we didn't really have, a great relationship with the buyer. And the buyer relationships are just so important, and it's such a balance of having them, they're so busy with all the things they have going on that you don't want to be a nuisance to them, but you also have to be in their face. And it's a fine line of, kind of dealing with that. But I never would hold grudges. We were DC'd by retailers that we went back into. In the beginning, sometimes you get into retailers that you're not ready for, and you don't get the velocity, and you get kicked out. But that doesn't mean you're kicked out forever. I mean, that just means you got to go back and retool what you're doing, pivot, maybe do something different. And then, maybe it's just time to build awareness with your, more consumers are buying your product. I do think, like, if you get in too early, to retailers, I had another brand you didn't bring up, but it's called Rowdy, which failed after 3 years. And I gave me a good gut check on, okay, maybe it's not just about me. Maybe there is luck and timing that come into these things. And we got distribution to 15, 20,000 doors in 18 months, and I wasn't trying to do that, but it just happened, and we couldn't hold the shelf because there wasn't enough consumer awareness about the product. And when you're a small company, you don't have enough marketing budget to really create that awareness super quickly. So I think it's about retooling if it doesn't work out, and figuring out why it didn't work out, and being super honest and objective with yourself. I mean, it doesn't do you any good to kind of breathe your own ether and think that everything is hunky dory and it's the retailer's fault. You got to change it within you.
We've had this exact situation happen. I think everything you just said, Jeff, we've had happen to us, and I would echo that feedback. You just have to be honest with yourself as a brand, and either own the fact that you don't belong on the shelf, or that if you do belong on the shelf, just make it undeniable with a strong selling story going back in. I think having those buyer relationships is really important. Also, having alignment with the buyers around what the expectations are is really important. That's something that we focus on now, especially on our way in.
Nice. John, anything additional from your end?
Yeah, I've had all those situations happen too. You never take it personal, although, I mean, you kind of do, but the reality is you can't, right? And you also have to understand, like, every category manager, every buyer, like, they have their perspective on where the future's going, and the retailer might too. And sometimes you fit into it and sometimes you don't. So, but do you take a lot of joy and pride in seeing it succeed once you finally do convince somebody to give you a shot and it works? Yeah, for sure. Like, but I do think an important point's been made already by both of the prior two folks, and that is, like, you can go in too early. Like, when we launched nationally in 2018, and like went from like 300 doors to about 8,500, there was one particular retailer that I won't name names, but like one particular retailer where we got to the first category review and our velocities weren't that great, and we ended up getting discontinued. And other retailers that brought us in at that exact same time were messaging us saying, hey, it's not, your velocities are not where they need to be, you need to get them up, but we're going to stick with you. And now 7 years later, or 6 years later, we still don't have a business with that one retailer at all. However, we have businesses that are many just massive businesses with very high velocity at retailers all around them. And even now, it's still a hard sell with that retailer. I don't really get it, but it's just the way it is. Like, So you just have to like power through it and know that it'll work out in the end if you're doing the right thing by consumers, and you can continue to show up at every category review and optimistic and like without bearing any ill will about the past, and just coming in with a really optimistic perspective. It'll eventually happen for you.
Yeah, I can definitely, I'm kind of smirking as you're talking, John, because one of my friends, I'm not going to say what the brand is, right? I'll leave it anonymous, but it's a brand that should have been in this retailer, and it would have done well. And something happened in the buyer meeting, and it didn't have to do with velocity. It was like a personality thing, and like something wrong was said, or maybe something that shouldn't have been said. And this brand, and I know the CEO of this brand, and they're great now, and they actually got back in, but like it took like 9 years to get back in. And the same buyer was on that desk for those years, or maybe the buyer became, moved over, but told the new buyer about this brand whenever they were meeting. Anyway, long story short, it's beyond, and you said this earlier, I think Jeff said this too, the relationship is so crucial. And sometimes decisions are made, and it's not just based on velocity and the brand. It's based on the relationship, how the person presents it, what they're going to do to support the retailer. And if that's not done correctly in that that really sensitive time of pitching that buyer and sitting down with them belly to belly, you could lose that business and not get it back for a while, especially if the buyer just flat out just doesn't like the brand or doesn't like the person. Unfortunately, that happens sometimes, even if you have data, and that sometimes can get frustrating. However, like you said, if you keep on just kind of plugging away at it, and you show the data, and you're patient, politely persistent and patient, eventually you'll get back in, because data eventually trumps all, right? Like you can convince through data that this retailer is going to make a lot of money. I gotta point out a couple comments, and then I have another question, Wade, for everyone that anyone can jump in on. So I have a 2-year-old son. His name is Aaron, and I just got to share this cute story that we buy Once Upon a Farm over at Costco, right? We were talking about Costco earlier with Jeff. And when I buy it, he sees me put it into the fridge, and then I close the fridge, and then he comes up to me, and one of his favorite words is open, open, open. So he wants me to open the fridge. So I open the fridge, and there it is on the shelf, it's on the low shelf because I want him to grab one. And so he grabs one, and then he holds it up to me, and he says, open, again. And because he can almost open it, but it's a little like it's, and so I open it for him, and then he just, I guess, what's the right word? Chugs it, I guess. He just drinks it so fast. And the thing like it deflates to flat. Like that's how much he loves it. And then he also loves the cap. He loves playing with the cap, which is, I don't know if you guys meant to make it kind of a thing they can play with and hold on to, but that was kind of a clever addition. And then J.R. Simic, who's a really good friend of mine, he's a co-founder of Vive, and he has a child around my age. And so he just commented too that my kids live off these and all this good stuff. So anyway, this is a really cute story. It's going to be in our household for a long time. So is there a bet the company moment with any of you guys where you had to make a really crucial decision? If the wrong decision was made, it could have been just the end of the company, not to be dramatic, but then the right decision was made and it carried you to this whole new level with your company. Has anything like that happened in your company history? And anyone can jump in on that one.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think being an entrepreneur, you're especially in CPG, you are always kind of standing on the precipice of the edge, looking into the abyss, and that's challenging, and it takes a certain type of personality. We had been thinking about shots, the 2-ounce shots for a long time, and maybe it was a mistake, I don't know, but I didn't want to launch. We had them developed. Our chef Brian Ribley did an awesome job of developing them, and I didn't launch them for 2 years because I wanted there to be competition, because I felt like it would get football around the store because they're small, and where's it going to get placed and all that stuff. And I wanted to have another competitor so that it would help build the awareness of the product line. And eventually we decided to get into it, and it had a 65% gross margin. and whereas the juice was about half that, and it completely transformed, the company. And maybe I should have done it earlier. Maybe that would have helped more, but at least we did it, and it really made a big difference in the company.
Is that the top seller for Suja now, or the shots, or is it more the Costco stuff?
I mean, the shots have definitely gotten to be, a very, very healthy percentage of the business. So and I think people gravitate to them because, and they're harsh. I talk about, most of these products should be, health without the punishment, is that, it's got to taste good. And, people oftentimes miss that, and they it's got all this functionality. It's so good for you. Yeah, but it tastes like cardboard. And, people aren't going to repeat. And, what you find in this space is that, repeat is really one of the main keys to, success, because if you got to go out and get fresh new customers every time, that becomes a really expensive and time consuming, battle. And, but with shots, I called it health with the punishment, because, people know they're getting something so efficacious that they're willing to take a shot and swig it down, quickly, that they'll take a, difference in the taste. But generally, most of us are in the middle of this bell curve, and we're of health and wellness on our journey, and we come into it at different points, and we all want to move a little bit to the right, to get a little more healthy, but we don't want to be bludgeoned for it, or we won't repeat, unless we're very much the extreme.
It makes sense. And I got to say that the shot coming out with it in 2018, I think 2017. I'm trying to remember.
I think 2017, 2018.
Yeah. So it's good that you had a couple of years to build that, and then COVID came, and then there was a lot of, just leveraging that growth through COVID and people running to immunity, everything, it seemed. So like you said earlier, luck and timing, that's a big part of, that, not a big, but it is a part of success. Anyone else want to comment on
that?
Yeah. Please go ahead, Max. Go.
Happy to. Yeah. We had it was a crazy moment, honestly, probably the toughest moment in my career. I thought banking was tough, but then I was met with our co-packer shutting down on us with 2 weeks of cash runway notice. And that was our only production source for the ghee jars. And I've actually talked about this on LinkedIn. I don't really post too often, but this is one of the stories that I told. This was January or February of 2022, February, I think. And our co-packer called me up and said, "Hey, we're going to run out of cash in 2 weeks." And I immediately scrambled and, flew up to Healdsburg and tried to get a deal done with them to acquire them, but we just couldn't get it done. And unfortunately, well, I guess I'll put that one, put this other detail in. I ended up coming home from that week trying to get the deal done with him, and I was on my way back from the gym, and I got a call from him, and he had it was the last time I spoke to him. It was only a 7-minute call, and he basically started by saying, "Hey, just let everyone go. We just bankrupted the company." So I was like, "Wow." I mean, there's nothing we can do. So anyway, that kind of put us into a frenzy. We didn't have any redundancy in manufacturing, and that's pretty intentional on our side because we have some IP in our process, and we don't want to necessarily share that with other co-packers. But at that point in time, it made redundancy seem like would have been a good idea. And so I just remember getting on the phone with the board and letting everyone know what had happened. I remember flying back up there, and I was standing in the warehouse of the facility talking to the board about how there's an opportunity for us to get involved in this process, because what they had done was they put the business in what's called an ABC, an assignment for the benefit of creditors, which is sort of like a private bankruptcy process where all of the assets get assigned over to a third party and liquidated to obviously generate as much return as possible for the creditors. And so we entered that process, and I think the reason why this was so company defining for us was because we didn't have manufacturing experience at that point in time, and luckily our VP Ops had some experience in manufacturing, so that was helpful. But our board, I think, was a bit reluctant to support the idea of us going to self-manufacturing because we had never really done it. And, we're a young company, so there's a lot of risk involved in doing something like that, a lot of capital potential need, and that was already tough to get at the time. So long story short, 65 days later, we went fully operational in that facility. From the day that they shut down to the day we went fully operational, 65 days. We got in there. We ended up winning the auction, bought all the assets, and rehired a whole team. Most of that team had worked on our product before, so we were really fortunate to have a really strong startup team there at the facility, and restructured a whole new lease on that building. And fast forward another 2 years, now we have 3 buildings in that area, and we're profitably running that facility, pumping out probably 2 times the amount of product that we used to make. And it's been a dream come true, honestly. If we didn't have that happen, I don't know if we would have hit our 2022 forecast, honestly. So it was sort of serendipitous. And it's opened up a lot of doors for us. I've spoken to some of the board members about this. It's really a category imperative for us to own manufacturing. It's an advantage that we flex a lot, and gives us the ability to really, I think, surpass our competitors in many ways.
Nice. And John, I think you had something you wanted to throw in there as well.
Oh, I was just going to comment on Jeff's category expansion. I think that the category expansion into shots was just such a great example of incredible category expansion. Just understanding the consumer, what was happening in that category. I just wanted to flag that.
Thank you.
There's a lot that can be learned from that.
Yeah, 100%. And it's ironic because the category was built. I think the rising tide lifts all the boats, and when a competitor first comes in, right? There's if you're a brand and you have this product and you have no competitors, that's actually, to me, a bad sign. That's not a good sign. It's good to have competitors, unless it's something highly proprietary that someone just cannot do at the scale that you're doing it. But for something like a shot, I think Jeff, you said it, it's good to have competitors. It's good to have categorical awareness. It's good to have a shot set that has a few others in there so that people see it. It's not just a little skinny area on the shelf. And so JR, coincidentally, is on, he's in the audience, right? He was commenting, the co-founder of Vive, right? And I remember when he started back in 2016, and then when with Suja coming in, and then Solti coming in, I think it just built that category so much that everyone won. Now, if you try to get in too late, you can't be too early, but you can't be too late.
Right.
If someone goes in the shots right now, you really missed, I think, every wave under the sun, pretty much. But there's still shots coming out, right? New creative, new shots.
Well, I like to say, Alex, you don't have to be first. But you can be second or third, and that's oftentimes a great position. We were third in the HPP juice set, but you don't want to be sick. You don't want to be 61st. And by the 5th year, there were 60, category meetings at Whole Foods, with juice companies like Suja.
Exactly, and I remember a lot hit Whole Foods and other, like in Erewhon and all, I saw so many. But Suja stood the test of time because of the brand awareness, because of the right timing as well.
But we were late. We were a little later, so we had our timing right. Whereas Evolution and Blueprint, they were a little earlier, and they're great brands, but they were just too early.
Yeah.
And had we been there, we would have been in the same spot, I think. So timing really does matter.
Yeah, and I do remember too. I know we can go on and on. Is there was an article in BevNet, and I remember this because I used I followed you really closely throughout that process when I first started Genius Juice. And also, as we talked about, I visited you at the Suja facility, and you gave me a tour. You gave me a tour on the one day where the juice was not being filled in the bottles. It was a day off.
That was by design.
Yeah, design. You didn't want me to see the secrets, right? The trade secrets. But I do remember what was important, and we can, we're at time here, is that you talked about the scale driver of Suja, and it was a great article like 10 years ago in BevNet, and you were talking about the $3.99, the $4.99 cold pressed organic juice, and I think you called it democratizing juice. It was really cool. It was a great move and pivot, with not a pivot, but a great addition in the company to make it accessible to all. So, and was that a big game changer for you guys?
That just became kind of our, our mission, our point that we're yelling is democratizing organic juices and making them available to the masses at an affordable price point, because it's, we're trying to do that, right? And if enough people do that, that's why I listened to an article that John wrote at one point that was about, potentially having people think that you're selling out to a big company, but like our emerging brands can create the fire, be the catalyst, but it's ultimately the big brands that really have to own that kind of stuff to really make it available to the masses in a meaningful way, to really lean in. I thought that was really interesting the way he said that at one point.
Yeah, and I think Blueprint, for those that followed cold press juice back in 14, 15, 16, 17. Blueprint, I think, made some huge fundamental mistakes. They never got the price down enough. Like, it was always like the rich, white man's drink, like $8.99, $9.99. It was too expensive, and they never scaled it at a lower price. And I think that was pivotal that Suja did that.
It also cost a bunch of fundraising rounds, but yeah.
I guess takes money to make money, right? As they say.
Yeah.
But it all worked out in the end, though, right? The destination was worth the journey, I guess. So with all that said, we are at time. I mean, I think we got to have, I said this before, we got to have a round 2 of this. I mean, Wade, this was a great panel, great chemistry. So we're going to bring you guys, if you want to be back on our show, we'd love to have you back, and we'll have a round 2 of this.
Sounds good. Would
Love
love
it.
that. That'd be fun.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And I'll have some. I'll have a hoodie on from one of these brands. Whoever sends it to me first.
One of these, maybe, Alex.
Ooh,
he's prepared.
beautiful.
I'm sitting in a room stacked with about 150 of those.
Or one of these, perhaps.
Exactly.
Pull over.
I will take that too, for all different weather. I love it.
Okay.
I will take both. I will. Thank you, guys.
I'll get you guys.
Consider it done.
Give me your addresses. Yeah.
Awesome.
Likewise.
Awesome. So we're gonna go to our trivia question here, because again, there's so much more we can talk. This could be a 2-hour show. So our trivia question: you're gonna win a 12-pack of Melting Forest, the functional, and Jeff knows this brand really well, right? He's in your accelerator.
It's a great brand. Yeah. It's a great brand.
And we'll have you quickly. We'll do an elevator thing about your accelerator after we ask the question, because I want you to quickly mention that, because it's a great program. And Jeff brought me on as one of the featured speakers about crowdfunding. So thank you again for doing that, and happy to be there to help the brands as well and grow my business, right? So we're going to do a trivia question, 12-pack Melting Forest. It's brought to you by also our main sponsor, Powerful Energy Distribution. You can just go to LinkedIn and link up with Robert Kogan. And actually, Melting Forest is working with Robert Kogan as well, Powerful Energy Distribution. So getting his product into Canada. So great company, great guy, knows his shit. He's amazingly smart. I think too smart. He has too much information, but it's good to talk with him. And he will get your brand in to Canada and coach you through the entire process. So 12-pack of Melting Forest. Trivia question. Wade, go. You got one? What floor are you on? Is that the trivia question?
I was going to say I'm up in the clouds here.
Yeah.
We're short on time because I got to get back downstairs too. It might take me an hour and a half to get there because I'm up so high. What was Max's unknown fact that he does? Little known fact, unknown, whatever it was.
And it's also a Primus song for those that ever listened to the band Primus.
That's a good hint. That's a good hint.
Yeah. Jeff, did I lose you on that one with Primus? You ever listen to that band? I don't see you as a Primus guy.
No, I don't know that. Probably out of my genre.
Yeah.
You lost me on that one.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what comes up. Meanwhile, there it is. Jeff, boom.
Race car driver. So there's a Primus song. Primus is the weirdest band of all time. I got into them when I was like in my early 20s. Les Claypool, for those that have listened. And there's one of their biggest songs is called Jerry is a Race Car Driver. That's the name of their song. So
Got it.
Very obscure hint that probably no one would get. Primus, Jerry, there we go. Someone got it. There it is. Plays poker. That was me. That was me. All right. So that's the bow right on the present there. So that is our Expert Series Volume 6. Thank you, John Foraker, Max Dichter with Fourth and Hard, John Foraker with Once Upon a Farm, and Jeff Church with Suja. And then really quick, like 20 seconds or less, 30 seconds. Tell us about your accelerator before we close out the show.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Alex. I started an accelerator and a boot camp for CPG founders to help people increase their odds of success, and trying to move people up from the dismal startup failure rate that you typically see to a much higher rate by teaching them lessons that I've learned over time. I think it's great. I have 15 founders in the program. Right now, Sean McDonald with Melting Forest has been a really great friend and a great client as well. And I think hopefully just it's the learning curve in doing this is like learning a language. That it's not that hard once you learn it, but to learn it, you got to go through a cycle. So hopefully I can help people reduce that. But if you're interested, hit me up on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to share information with you.
Awesome. It's a great program. As mentioned, I sat in on it, met a lot of the brands, 2 different days, right? So different brands, emerging brands looking to grow and scale sustainably to lower the rate of brands that go out of business, right, through this type of accelerator, right, with knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So check it out. I guess just LinkedIn, message you.
Yeah, LinkedIn or Jeff or teamchurch.co also, but LinkedIn's probably easiest.
Beautiful. And it's someone's asking beverage only, or is it anything?
No, it's food, beverage, beauty, pet.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and have a wonderful weekend. And we will enjoy the rest of Nosh. Travel safe.
Right. Thanks,
and
guys.
We'll see you next week. Same time, same place, 3 o'clock Eastern. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks.